This video is walk you guys through your second essay assignment. In this unit, you guys looked at texts not only from different authors, from different genres, but you also looked at texts across two different movements, the Enlightenment movement and the Romanticism movement. So what you're going to do in this is choose one of the works that you read in this unit to analyze in relation to the movement it's associated with. So if you choose, say, Poe, that would be a Romanticism text. If you choose, say, Ben Franklin, that would be an Enlightenment text. But you're going to use one of the works, again, read in this unit. And then in your essay, you need to clearly identify which movement you're focusing your analysis on. And you're going to show how that work and that author exhibit particular elements of that movement. So how, for example, does John Adams' letters or Abigail Adams exhibit Enlightenment elements in their letters? How does Phyllis Wheatley exhibit Enlightenment elements in her poems? Or how does someone like Longfellow or Poe exhibit Romanticism elements in their poems or their works, or the short story? You need to have one credible source to support your analysis in this essay. That needs to be from, again, it can't be from 123helpme.com or gradesaver.com. It needs to be from a credible source like biography.com, history.com, something with an .edu. You can always access the TCC scholarly database as well and find scholarly articles if you wanted to use one of those. You can find sources that talk about the author, that talk about the movement, or talk about the work itself. My personal recommendation would be to use sources that talk about the works, but if some of these I understand are a little more niche, so if you want to, again, choose something that's more on the author or the movement, that's fine too. The topic and the literary work that you choose is yours, so choose carefully. It's purposely broad because I want you guys to choose the work and choose the elements of that movement that you want to talk about that are of most interest to you. But whatever you choose, make sure you have a good, solid thesis claim. Make sure you have main ideas as well. And usually those are associated with those literary elements you want to talk about. And then you have good, solid evidence both from the primary and the secondary sources to help support your claims. And in this case, evidence, again, means generally quotes. Quotes are the strongest forms of evidence. You can paraphrase, but I would try to rely on quotes where you can. And like I said, you're choosing one of the works read in this unit from any of these authors. I know you didn't read them, all of these different female poets, but I listed them all in there just in case. So your essay needs to be 2 to 3 pages in length and is due by Sunday, November 20th at 11:59 p.m. That means to the bottom of the second page, everything checked for plagiarism. Don't forget to use MLA formatting. You can always write more, you just can't write less. If you write less, you'll have points taken off. You need to discuss the works in depth, so use those same literary elements that you know how to analyze as you did in your first essay in the second one, and then speak to those elements in relation to the movement. So how, for example, does, say, Ben Franklin use idioms to portray certain elements of enlightenment to his audience, to tell them that they need to do X or be X? How does Phyllis Wheatley, for example, portray certain elements of the Enlightenment to her audience through her poetry using, say, a certain rhyme scheme or imagery or symbolism? How does Poe use setting or characterization to portray elements of the Romantic movement to his audience? Say, the tortured artist or whatever it might be. So make sure that you focus primarily on the text as a piece of literature in your analysis. Do what I do in the lectures, and then secondarily, you can always think about the biographical or the historical context. So for many of these, the author's own experiences or the what was happening in society at the time was hugely influential on these texts. So for example, John and Abigail Adams, obviously, their letters talk about the revolution. That's important to our understanding of the text. But what you don't want to do, just like in the first essay, You don't want this to become a biography essay. You don't want this to become a history essay. This needs to be a literary analysis essay. So primary focus is on analyzing the literature as a piece of literature. Secondary focus can be on incorporating the biographical or the historical context, because in all of these cases, it is important to the text, right? It's important who John and Abigail Adams were when you read their letters. It's important who Judith Sargent Murray was at the time when you read her poems. Same thing with Phillis Wheatley. So think about that kind of in the background as you do your analysis. So you're going to be assessed and making sure you have a good development of your argument centered around the principles of that movement that you choose to talk about. Proper number of sources, full exploration of the chosen work. So making sure that you really dive in and analyze those pieces of literature. Good evidence to support your claims from the primary and secondary sources, proper MLA, formatting and style. Make sure you include a works cited or bibliography page for not only the text that you choose to analyze, but also include on that bibliography the source or sources that you use. Make sure you also cite those in text as well. And then make sure you use good scholarly language and terminology as you talk about these different movements. You have lectures to kind of guide you. So make sure you integrate some of that terminology into your analysis. And then a good holistic essay structure with a fully developed argument. So that is your second essay. Let me know if you have any questions, but otherwise go ahead and move on.